You're watching Alaska's news source.
Today on the Morning Edition, the Mat-Su Valley waking up today to careful optimism that the worst of the wind has passed. We'll show you how the windstorm has caused damage and power outages on a widespread scale across the valley. Plus, it's not a secret that the cost of living is higher in Alaska than the national average, but food banks and others are reporting increasing demand as increasing prices are straining families across the state. We'll take a look at the numbers. And later, trees for troops, sending troops stationed overseas, a little bit of home and cheer for the holiday. We'll take a look at one of the nurseries that makes it all possible and hear the feelings on it as the Morning Edition starts now. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Thanks for waking up with us today. You might notice we've gotten a little bit festive here at the station too. We've got our holiday decorations up and it is feeling a lot cooler, Bailey.
It is feeling a lot colder, but it is starting to feel like Christmas in my opinion, especially with all these Christmas decorations. But outside for today, our high temperature in Anchorage is 11 degrees, which is 15 degrees colder than what we typically see this time of year. So pretty interesting, but we're pretty far off from that record temperature at 51 degrees. But for today, those temperatures as you're walking out the door and getting ready this morning, feeling pretty chilly as you get towards Merrill Field, and then a little bit colder as we get a little bit closer to where we're broadcasting from right now. But slightly warmer over at the airport for today, but those temperatures are going to continue to feel pretty chilly as we get through today, and then as we get through the rest of the week. High temperatures again starting at 11 degrees, and then as you get outside this morning, around 8 degrees as you head out to work. But we are seeing slightly weaker wind gusts across the state right now. Even into the Mat-Su Valley, we are already seeing those wind gusts starting to decrease just a little bit, only peaking at about 47 miles per hour, and that's still relatively strong, and we're going to continue to see some of these wind gusts continue through today. However, they're not going to be nearly as strong as what we've been seeing all week long. So the worst has passed, and that's the good thing to look forward to. Now, looking ahead, again, that high pressure all across the state, giving us those bright and sunny skies throughout today as well as through the rest of the week. However, there is a slight difference, and that's going to be in southeast, where we're still seeing this low pressure bringing in lots of rain and snow into Ketchikan. There's been winter storm reports and winter storm warnings as we expect about 8 inches to fall into Ketchikan by tomorrow. We're also seeing that into areas like Hyder as well. So that low pressure system is really bringing in those impacts, but you'll notice that these impacts really come in overnight when those temperatures begin to drop below freezing. So that's whenever you can expect to see these stormy conditions, these snowy conditions pushing on through. But across in Palmer, expect those wind gusts to finally calm down just a little bit more through today.
After 4 days of extreme wind, the Mat-Su Borough is hunkering down, preparing for more high-speed gusts. Of course, as we just heard, the good news is that the wind is lesser today than it has been. Danny Tompkins spoke with people affected as well as local officials to learn how the valley is working to stay safe and warm.
Take a look at this telephone pole behind me that's blown over in the hurricane-like winds that are still blowing through the Wasilla and Mat-Su area on Monday. They've ripped roofs off of buildings and flipped over semis. And we've checked in with local businesses and residents across the area to see how everyone is dealing with the wind.
This is a whole nother level of insanity.
The wind has been horrible driving. You know, it pushes you all over the road.
The windstorm that slammed the valley this weekend tore off most of the roof of Settlers Bay Lodge in Wasilla.
I know the morale of my staff is a little defeated at this point, and I'm sure other people in the community are feeling that.
Broda says it will take months to rebuild what was damaged.
One of those things that you're powerless over, so you control, worry about the things you can control.
While some places like Settlers Bay Lodge still have power, many are still struggling with intermittent outages.
Today we're open and we had a major windstorm. All the power's off. Right now we're helping the community by keeping the doors open. We got team members helping guests out. We're not serving cold food because our freezers are down, but we're on backup generators, so we want to make sure the community is able to get the needed supplies they need.
Despite the challenges, residents are making the most of it, even getting in some Christmas shopping at Target.
It's the only place that's open except for Sportsman's.
But the biggest surprise for some, just how long this storm's impact has lasted.
That's why I tell everybody I've never seen it last this long. So usually I have it for a day or so and then it disappears, but it's hanging on.
Power crews are still working to restore electricity, but outages are still intermittent. Now, people are still out running errands, but staying safe as they wait for the storm to pass. Danny Tompkins, Alaska's news source.
In the meantime, the cost of living in Alaska has been significantly higher than in much of the nation, and increasing costs are beginning to have more substantial impacts on families across the state. Adelmi Ruiz joins us now with a look at the cost of living factor. Adelmi.
Kristen, we're seeing how rising grocery costs in Alaska are pushing more families to seek help as we move into the holiday season, and food prices keep climbing across the state. In Anchorage, grocery costs run about 27% above the national average. That's according to the research website PayScale. In Juneau, that number is even higher at about 30%. In Fairbanks, the number fluctuates, but you can expect grocery staples to average out at 35% higher, but some items can be closer to 60%. And here are some specifics just to show the difference in grocery prices. The national average for a gallon of milk is just over $4 in Anchorage, and Juneau, you will pay closer to $6. A loaf of bread in the lower 48 averages less than $1, but to get the same thing in Alaska is closer to $5 and sometimes higher. Fairbanks prices are high, but change more because of the cost of transportation. It's easy to see how with those food prices, food banks say they are seeing that impact every day, leading to more families asking for help. In Juneau, St. Vincent de Paul, a nonprofit, says they've seen a nearly 30% increase in need this holiday season. The organization says they've given around 500 turkeys and food bags to households in need this year. Executive Director for the group, Jennifer Skinner, says in years past, that number is usually around 300. She says she believes that a pause in SNAP benefits in early November, coinciding with the high cost of living in the region, are reasons to blame.
The cost of goods has gone up, and there's such a discrepancy between what people can earn in our workforce versus the cost of living here in Juneau, when your average 2-bedroom apartment is over $2,000 a month.
Skinner says she expects the need to continue to increase in the region and adds she's thankful for all the volunteers and partner organizations helping out during this time. Kristen.
All right, thanks, Adelmi. Public safety, reducing homelessness, and pushing for more affordable housing all took center stage at the Anchorage State of the City address Monday, where vision telling the Anchorage Chamber that progress is taking shape, even on the toughest issues. She pointed to an annual count showing unsheltered homelessness surged 300% from January 2019 to January 2025. The mayor said the city is now providing shelter year-round, calling it a crucial step in turning those numbers around.
For the first time ever, Anchorage now has a coordinated year-round shelter system. The Muni is maintaining 300 beds of shelter year-round with the ability to scale up as needed.
The mayor said the city will struggle to maintain services without new investment. She also used the speech to promote a 3% sales tax she's hoping will come before voters this spring. A divided minority Republican Party, that's the headline after some lawmakers have openly expressed their disapproval over the selection of House Minority Leader Delina Johnson. What does this internal party division mean for the upcoming legislative session? Political reporter Will Courtney explains that question on the latest edition of Alaska's Political Pipeline podcast.
James, when we're seeing all this public backlash against the selection process, what does that mean for party unity going into what could be a pretty high-stakes legislative session?
Folks who are unhappy with Delina Johnson being appointed as minority leader are trying to rally support, public support, to change legislators' minds in the minority and elect someone different. And my understanding is that right now the votes aren't there.
The extended conversation with James Brooks is available right now on our website, mobile app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The University of Alaska Fairbanks says the Center for Teaching and Learning will be reorganized and rolled into the Office of Faculty Affairs and Services. The change comes a little more than 2 years after its creation. The CTL says it helps at UAF by assisting with student outcomes and class developments. CTL staff says the reorganization will cause 14 position losses and the elimination of some programs. Alaska's news source reached out to UAF administration but haven't yet heard back. In a press release, the university says the reorganization will continue to provide course development and design support for faculty. Still ahead on the Morning Edition, the Better Business Bureau and postal inspectors are warning against new scams, saying they're smarter and more complicated than ever before. We'll share some tips to help avoid them and help break them down.
And the worst of the winds are over as we expect to see those winds taper off just a little bit more in South Central today with sunny skies through the week. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
And welcome back in on this Tuesday morning. We are really feeling the chill, Bailey. It's a bit colder than usual.
Oh, it is feeling a lot colder than usual, Kristen. It's about 15 degrees colder than what we usually see. But the good news is that in terms of wind, we're actually already starting to see this wind beginning to die down in the Mat-Su Valley. Now, the good news is also that these wind warnings and wind advisories are over. They expired as of 6 a.m., so just very recently. You can expect these winds to continue to blow about 35 miles per hour for those gusts. But the good news, again, is that we're not going to see these wind gusts nearly as strong as what we saw over the weekend at 89 miles per hour. And then yesterday, they peaked around 83 miles per hour. Now, as of this morning, wind gusts peaked around 49 miles per hour in Palmer, but that's about as strong as it's going to get. Now, looking ahead in the broader scale of things with our jet stream forecast, high pressure to the west is still leaving in those mostly sunny skies all across this state, and this jet stream just south of the Panhandle is bringing in more of that wintry weather into areas like Ketchikan and Hyder. Now, that's really the big story for today, since sunny skies aren't really a huge headline. But for Southeast Alaska, you can expect to see more of this winter weather pushing on through. Now, as of this morning, we're staying mostly clear in areas like Juneau, but you'll notice that by the afternoon hours, as we get into the overnight hours, pushing into Wednesday, we're actually going to see a lot more of that snow pushing into Ketchikan and other areas like Petersburg, as well as areas like Hyder. Now, rain is going to be in the forecast for today, but again, in the overnight hours, that's when you'll start to see more of that wintry mix. But across the state in western Alaska into the interior, mostly sunny skies are ahead all week long with very little change in that forecast. But over in Southeast Alaska, again, we're looking at that winter storm warning where we're going to expect up to 8 inches of snow accumulating overnight tonight into Wednesday morning. Now, that winter storm warning is going to expire at 3 a.m. Wednesday, so very early, but you're already noticing that by around 2 a.m. by Wednesday, you're going to get up to 6 inches in areas like Petersburg and only a couple of inches in Ketchikan. But of course, don't rule out the possibility of getting up to 8 inches of snow. Now, most of that heavier snow is going to fall in those higher elevation regions. Down in the lower elevations, do expect a couple of inches to roll through in areas like Sitka as well as Ketchikan. Now, wind chill is, again, another one of the big impacts we're looking ahead to with these much colder temperatures. So in areas like Bethel and into Fairbanks, that's where we're seeing the strongest wind chill. And that's that temperature that it really starts to feel on your skin. So make sure you bundle up and be careful of frostbite as we get some windier gusts moving on through. Now, for today, you're going to see those high temperatures around 11 in Anchorage and around 11 in Juneau. So we're already feeling those colder temperatures settling in for Southeast with those highs in Ketchikan still at 35. And that's why we're still expecting to see more of that rain for the daytime. And then as you get into the overnight hours with those lows below freezing, that's when we get more of that snow. But even up into Fairbanks, highs at -18. But we're still continuing to see colder temperatures into tomorrow and into Thursday as well. So that's what you can expect. And with your 7-day forecast in Anchorage, there's those colder temperatures that I mentioned that you can expect to see by Wednesday and Thursday. But again, mostly sunny skies are ahead, maybe some windier conditions by the weekend, but otherwise mostly sunny skies.
If your dog thinks it's a rain dog this time of year, Wasilla has just the place to let them strut this holiday. The festive Bark in the Park is happening Saturday at Finger Lake State Recreation Site from 11 to 3. Santa will be there for pet photos, so your dog can finally outshine every holiday card on your fridge. There will be treats, activities, a warming fire, and free hot drinks for the humans. And organizers say donations are welcome. Extra holiday credit if your rain dog shows up in costume. Now to a holiday consumer alert as the state's postal inspector says package theft and scams are rising. These new scams are sophisticated and complicated, he says, called quishing or brushing. These essentially involve fraudsters sending you products you've never ordered. They can then write fake reviews for the product in your name. They can also include envelopes with QR codes designed to steal your personal information. Better Business Bureau is urging people to use caution and offering some tips, which include arranging specific delivery times, verifying sellers before buying, and never scanning unknown QR codes, just to name a few. The full story is available right now on our website and mobile app.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.